Hey everybody, welcome to another first tasting. So this is a bottle that I have actually been wanting to buy for, I don't know, a couple of years at this point. Woodford Reserve has always been a favorite brand of mine. I really like their regular Distiller Select, I really like their Double Oak, and I really like their Rye. I didn't so much like their Malt, but I have wanted to try the Wheat, mostly because I really just generally enjoy wheated whiskeys. So let's go ahead and crack this guy open, if I can figure it out. Man, one thing that I've noticed on these first tastings is every single bottle opens differently, and some of them are a little challenged. Thankfully, that one was easy. So this is 52% malt. 52% wheat. Oh, that's interesting. Like the bottle itself, like the glass felt like it moved. That's interesting. That must have been under some pressure. So 52% wheat, 20% corn, 20% malt, 8% rye. So should be a very sweet and light whiskey with a really good flavor, I would hope. I'm expecting, based off that mash bill, to be a little bit of floral, probably have some typical bourbon notes, just knowing Woodford Reserve. They're still going to want to maintain as much of their profile as possible, which to me has always been very like oaky or woody. But let's go ahead and see. We'll give this a nose and a taste. Now keep in mind, all of these bottles, like I did last week, I did the 1920 Old Forester. I'm going to do actual reviews of them as well, because this does not, in my mind, constitute like a real review. This is just an initial impression to let you know what you might expect when you first open these bottles, because we all know that these things change over time. All right, so let's go ahead and have another nose. Interesting. Not quite what I was expecting. Hold on. I'm going to let that sit for a minute because the alcohol vapors are still kind of evaporating to the point where it's making it, it's not burning, but it does smell just like alcohol. So I'm going to give it a sec. But, excuse me. So that it's funny, when I inhaled, like there was alcohol just sitting right back here and I was waiting to see if it was going to make me cough. All right. So what the little bit that I'm getting so far is along those fruity lines, but it's a very weak smell to this. It's not distinctive. In fact, honestly, the nose here is a little underwhelming, but I am getting kind of a candy-like, almost, strawberry is not the right word. It's definitely something fruity. Maybe a little bit more citrusy than anything. It's a lot of times these things stick out to me like this is orange, or this is lemon, or this is apple, pear, blah, blah, blah. This one more is very opaque. It's just a sweet kind of candy with a hint of some sort of fruit. And I'm trying real hard to pick something else out here. You know what this smells a little bit like? If you're making an apple pie and you've cut up all of your apples already, I usually dump them into some sort of a bowl, and I mix all the cinnamon sugar, all that stuff into the bowl, and then I put that into the pie. Imagine you all do the same thing. That combination has a certain smell to it, and that's reminiscent of this. But that's not what I was expecting out of a wheated whiskey, so it kind of didn't come to the forefront of my mind right away. Almost like a candied apple flavor here, or nose as well. But all right, anyway, enough of that. I'll have another smell after I take a sip. So cheers to you, and cheers to Woodford. Again, showing me that going into anything here with a preconception is a mistake. Now, what is the ABV on this? 45.2. That's not huge, but the legs on this glass are something of note. They are absolutely, they're thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. So, man, this is interesting. It definitely doesn't drink crazy hot, but the alcohol does overtake some of the flavors here. Right off the bat, like if I were to pour this in a glass for a bunch of people after opening it up, I don't think that the general opinion would be an impressed one. I think that if you were to pour this, people would be like, maybe I don't like whiskey so much. You know, especially like if you're pouring yesterday I was at a party and I poured some whiskey for people who don't drink a ton of whiskey. So this is kind of on the forefront of my mind about how I would treat this one I would not just give this one out as a sample. This would be something that I would pour for somebody who could potentially appreciate whiskey to the point where they were willing to deal with maybe the first couple sips not being so great. Assuming that it gets better. I don't really know that it does. As far as the flavor goes, oddly enough, I'm tasting like a menthol kind of minty flavor. And that's not at all what I would expect out of a wheated whiskey. Now, it is barely wheated, or it's heavily wheated, but it's barely a wheat whiskey. It's only 52%, it has to be 51%. That 8% rye is actually coming through stronger than it should at only 8%. The 20% corn, I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging into what type of corn it is, because it's not just typical sweet corn like you'd get in any other bourbon. I bet there's something special going on with the corn. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my guess. And then the malt, I could see the malt kind of coming through here. And then maybe that's what's offsetting some of the sweetness of the corn here. I would imagine that probably is the case. Either way, this is a weird one. Let's have another sip. Yeah, this is interesting. There's a lot going on with the flavor here. I'm not sure this is my cup of tea. Typically, I like wheated whiskeys. But right now, this one's not selling it for me. I forget what I paid for this. I don't think it was a ton of money. Probably in the low 40s, if I had to guess. But I'll put it up here just, for posterity. Either way, off the first taste, this isn't something I would recommend. Man, after last week's Old Forester 1920, this was a bit of a letdown. But oh well, that's what this is fun for. So we'll see if my formal review on this actually goes any further. But for now, I'd skip it. But thank you for joining me here on this first taste. There'll be a normal video coming up on Friday, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.